So I was going to do this review last night, but unfortunately, since I got home very late last night, I decided to postpone this review to today on Sunday. And by the way, today is actually St. Patrick's Day, so happy St. Patrick's Day to anybody that is celebrating. I'm obviously wearing my green here, and unfortunately, I don't own a Portland Timbers or Seattle Sounders jersey because those two kits is green, and if I would have owned those jersey, I would have wear it to this review. But either way, let's talk about the Saturday games that happened yesterday. And like I said in the preview, I'm gonna be splitting the match week review into two parts again, where I'm going to be reviewing the Saturday game and then I will review the Sunday game on Sunday evening. Although unlike last week where I actually reviewed the Saturday game in Saturday evening, I'm going to do it here in Sunday morning. And for these 7 games, if you like goals, then this was definitely the day for you to watch MLS soccer. And there was also a couple of blowouts in this Saturday fixture in MLS, and the only game that did not feature a lot of goals was the Columbus and FC Dallas game, where there was only one goal that was featured. But we start off in the game that has the most goal out of the 7 games, and that is the Seattle Sounders and the Chicago Fire, where the Sounders won 4-2 against the Chicago Fire. And for the Sounders, well, they had a bit of a scare in the second half, and certainly they really had to work hard to earn this 3 points, but at the end of the day, they were able to get that. First half, Rodriguez scores from Morris and Ruidíaz, and then Morris scores from Ladero to make it 2-0 15 minutes into the game. And for Jordan Morris, he's continued this incredible run that he has in the beginning of the season. And can we just say that he is started to be a runaway candidate in terms of winning comeback player of the year, and maybe a good candidate for Golden Boot this year. I mean, the fact that he is playing his first 3 games after coming back from a torn ACL and after having been playing in a MLS competitive match in almost 2 years, it is absolutely incredible the form that he is in right now. And I know that this form that he's in is not going to, it's eventually going to kind of come to an end, because usually players that has good form in the beginning of the year, they do gradually slow down a little bit. But just take nothing away from what Jordan Morris has done so far in the early part of the season, where I think that's now 3 goals that he has scored in the first 3 games. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. And then Ladero, of course, scores on a penalty in the second half. And actually, he didn't score on the penalty. He actually missed this penalty because apparently he decided to be a little bit cute in the penalty kick and try to do a Panenka. But unfortunately, that Panenka bounced off the post. And I'll tell you what, he is very lucky that when that ball bounced off the post, it came right back to him and he basically headed into the empty net. I mean, anytime when you try to do a Panenka, you got to make sure that is in the back of the net, because if it isn't, then you are definitely going to hear it from the fans and also hear it from the manager that, yeah, you do not decided to try to be cute. And, even though they were up 2-0 at that point and they looked very comfortable, you don't decided to try to be very cute at this situation when you could have had just take a straightforward penalty and would have been up 3-0. But like I said, Ladero is very fortunate that when he missed that Panenka shot on his penalty, that ball literally just bounced straight back to him and he basically hits it into the empty net. And of course at that point, it's 3-0 Seattle. Game over, right? Not so fast. Because in the 56th minute, Chicago decided to wake up. Raheem Edwards scores from Sapon and Frankowski to make it 3-1. And then in the 84th minute, Herbert scored to make it 3-2 Seattle after he just came on a couple of minutes ago. And all of a sudden, it's a 1-goal game heading into the last 5 minutes. And if you're a Sounders fan, you are probably on the edge of your seat, because not only you had to deal with a lot of pressure from Chicago in this game, but yeah, Chicago looked like they're going to try to do something that they did last week where they were able to get a late equalizer, although this time it's going to be more impressive because that game they were down 1-0. This one, they were down 3-0 in this game. But fortunately for the Sounders, all hopes of them blowing a 3-0 lead is pretty much gone because they got an insurance goal in the 88th minute. Ruidíaz scores another goal. That's now 8 games in a row that he has a goal, which means that he's only 1 away from tying Diego Valeri's record of 9 games in a row with at least a goal. And yeah, it is just incredible. Like, when we saw what Valeri did, we thought that maybe that wouldn't be replicated. Ruidíaz looked like he is going to try to replicate that in the next game, and he even might be able to break that record if he's able to score in these next 2 games. So yeah, Ruidíaz, of course, now I think with 3 goals also this season. By the way, the assist in that goal was Brad Smith, and that is your final score with the Sounders winning 4-2. And like I said, they did survive a little bit of scare in this game. Chicago really decided to, the Fire, they really fought back in this game. And in terms of the shots in this game, the Fire actually had 25 shots compared to 10 that the Sounders had. 12 shots on goal compared to 7 that Seattle has. 8 shots off target compared to 1 that Seattle has. 3 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that the Sounders had. And they had 52% possession compared to 48% possession that the Sounders had. So it wasn't like the Sounders were cruising in this game. It was really Chicago putting a lot of pressure, but Stephen Fry time and time again came up big in this game, and the Fire wasn't really that clinical. And I think the other reason why they kind of lost this game was their defense, which was absolutely garbage in this game. And this is why I said in the beginning of the preseason, one of the biggest concern I have with this Fire team is that back line. And in this game, it's proven that they are definitely that is going to be their biggest issue. And as long as they don't fix that back line, this is going to be the resort that Fire fan will have to live with every single week. Despite the fact that they have a good attack, if you don't have a good back line that concede so many goals, then yeah, this is definitely going to be a long season for the Chicago Fire. But next up, Columbus. They won 1-0 against FC Dallas in the lowest scoring game out of the 7 games on Saturday. The only goal in this game was Sorrow scoring from Pedro Santos. I think this is the second time this season that Sorrow have scored from a header. And that is your final score in this game. There was no more scoring after that. There was a couple of chances for Columbus to maybe make it 2 or 3-0, but unfortunately they couldn't take advantage of that. Shots in this game, Columbus had 10 shots compared to 8 that Dallas had. 3 shots on goal compared to 2 that Dallas has. 5 shots off target compared to 4 that Dallas had. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocked, and Dallas had 55% possession compared to 45% possession that Columbus had. And overall it wasn't a very exciting game to watch. And Dallas, talking about what I said in the preseason, where I'm a little bit concerned with the fact that where in the world is the goal is going to come with this team. And in this game, it shows that they really kind of lack that goal scored, and they just couldn't do anything going forward. Although at the same time, I will say this with Dallas, they were playing on the road, and they were playing against a team that is known to really just notify a opposition attack. So yeah, for Dallas, it's a tough loss, but they need to kind of shake that off and try to improve in the next game. And for Columbus, again, this is kind of the way that they are going to play, and kind of the same way that they played last year, where this is a team that doesn't really score a lot of goals, but they're able to just score enough goals and be very kind of stifle in the back area, and probably are one of the best defense in the league, and that is the reason why they're able to get these results. There's going to be a lot of 1-0 or 2-1 kind of low scoring game when you see the Columbus Crew getting a result, and I think at the end of the day, if that is how they're going to win games, then it's perfect. I mean, as long as you get all 3 points, even if you're not playing the best football in the league, that is definitely fine with them. But next up, back to the high scoring action, and that of course is Houston winning 3-2 against the Whitecaps. And again, this game did had some controversy involved, and it started in the 15-minute. Well, actually, that wasn't the controversy. The controversy was with these two penalty. But in the 15 minutes, Memo Rodriguez scores from Elise after just a terrible giveaway from Cornelius, and Vancouver in this game, they were really poor in the defensive end, and that's been kind of the problem for the Whitecaps in these first three games, where they just haven't been good at all in the defensive part of the field. But like I said, Rodriguez scores from at least to give Houston an early lead, and then Vancouver won a penalty, and it didn't look like it was really a penalty. It looked like a pretty soft call, but I'm guessing that probably makes up for what happened last week when they had a penalty that was called against them, and that was no way in the world that should have been a penalty. So this kind of evens out a little bit. Montero, of course, scores the penalty to tie the game up at 1-1, but then Vancouver themselves commit a penalty, and again, this was another one of those questionable one, and they actually go to VAR in this instant. And what happened in this instant was Cornelius basically was lunging in to try to get the ball away from Elise, but unfortunately, when they look at VAR, it didn't look like Cornelius actually got the ball. I mean, it was very close, okay? It looked like, if anything, he maybe kind of got a toe toward the ball, but I feel like it was kind of the right call, the fact that it was not clear and obvious. Obviously, Vancouver fans are not happy, and I think after this game, Marc Dos Santos once again going to the media, criticizing the VAR and the referee making decision that goes against them. But I really think this week, unlike last week where I thought it was clear that was not the correct call, this one I think it's more justified of why it was not overturned, because it wasn't clear and obvious that Cornelius actually got the ball when he trying to lunge in and take out Elise in the box. And then of course Elise scores the penalty to give Vancouver or Houston the lead again. But Vancouver did fight back in the second half. Bagora scored his first goal with the Whitecaps to tie it up at 2-2, and it was a very good goal from Las Bagora to tied this game up, but unfortunately the Whitecaps couldn't hold on to get a point on the road, because in the 73rd minute Rodriguez scores for Menotes and Elise, and that is your final score in this game. Shots in this game, Houston had 21 shots compared to 7 that Vancouver has, 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Whitecaps had, 11 shots off target compared to 3 that Vancouver has, and Houston had 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Whitecaps had. Possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that Vancouver has. And, for the Whitecaps, it's another very frustrating loss, and I think, as I'm seeing with this team, again, I feel like this team is still not completely ready to compete, and the fact that it seemed like the chemistry level is still not there with this team. And if you're a Whitecaps fan, I know these results are kind of frustrated to see, but it's gonna take time for Marc Dos Santos to able to gather this new fresh squad to basically get the chemistry level up and also implement his tactics into this team. And I just generally think that the Whitecaps, they definitely can score goals in these first couple of games. Well, last game they didn't score a goal whatsoever, but in these first 3 games, 2 of the 3 games that they have played, they already scored 2 goals in this season. So I don't think goal scoring is a problem with this team, but it's just the defense that is a bit of a problem. Their defense have definitely not looked very good. And the one thing that I will say that is looking good for the Whitecaps so far this season is that at least this Whitecaps fan, or not Whitecaps fan, but at least this Whitecaps team have showed some fight back, and that we saw it against Minnesota, where even though they were 3-1 down in that game, they were able to get a goal back and really make things interesting. And in this game, they show a lot of fight back, going down twice in this game and able to come back to tie the game up, only to give up a goal late in the game. So at least the fight back is there with this team. At least the effort is definitely with this team. But the chemistry level and the way that Marc Dos Santos want this team to play is still not quite there. And as for Houston, it's a good win for them. They kind of made it a little bit tough on themselves in this game, but still, they got all 3 points in this game, and now they have back-to-back wins at home, which is something that they really need to take advantage this season. Last season, I talked about how they need to win their home games because they're so good at home, but they're not very good on the road. Right now, they're doing exactly the opposite of what they did last season, and they're supposed to do the thing that will potentially get them to the playoffs, which is win their home games, and then on the road, maybe occasionally they can get a point or two, and that is pretty much the way that you can make it to the playoffs. But next up, the Quakes. Well, they got blown out in this game, which is not a surprise because I knew coming into this game we were either going to get blown out or we're just going to lose this game because the Red Bulls is one of the best teams in the league. They are the defending Supporter Shield champ, and the fact that the Quakes are on the road and playing an Eastern Conference team, usually that means it's an automatic loss. And it was the case again here as they lost 4-1. And really, I think for the Quakes in this game, this was really a tale of two halves for the Quakes. In the first half, it was probably the best first half on the road that I've seen the Quakes play in a very long time. Like the intensity level and the way that the team executed Mateus Almeida man marking system was it was perfect. And they also got off to a dream start too, with Espinoza scoring his first goal with the Quakes from Eriksson in the 5th minute, and it's 1-0 after 5 minutes, and that really kind of stunned the fans at Red Bull Arena, thinking that, I don't know, I didn't expect the fact that we were going to go 1-0 down so quickly. And then after that, the Quakes, they continued to try to get that second goal. And like I said, the intensity level was definitely there. And the fact that the team playing this man-marking system was very effective in the first half. And talk about Espinoza, the goal scorer. Man, he was an absolute nightmare to deal with in the first half. Like the way that he is able to run down the right flank, the Red Bulls had absolutely no answer in terms of stopping him at that area. And Vako, of course, he probably could have scored maybe a goal or two in this game if he would have just been better in terms of his finishing and also bringing down those balls that Espinoza basically feed it to him. But still, I can't really complain the fact that, heading into the halftime, we're up 1-0 against the Red Bulls, and it was just, like I said, probably the best first half that we have ever played on the road in a very long time. But that's when the second half begins, and that's when I said that this was a tale of two halves. In the first half for the Quakes, it was absolutely amazing. In the second half, it was absolutely god-awful. And it was just, the second half for the Quakes kind of resemble of the Quakes back in 2018, which is a team that just, once they gave up a goal, they just pretty much capitulate, and the defense was absolutely god-awful in the second half and basically revert back to 2018 form. Mule scores from Royer in the 51st minute to make it 1-1 at that point. And then Mule, of course, scores his second goal in the 71st minute. And at that point, I knew the game was over. Like, even though when the Red Bulls scored that second goal and maybe we could have come back into the game, I don't think we're going to come back to this game, because every time when I see the Quakes go down on the road, it is very rare that this team is able to pick themselves off their feet and able to maybe fight back late in the game and then get a second goal to basically get a point out of this one. That is not going to happen. And sure enough, that is exactly what did not happen, of them not not really trying to show their resilience and fight back in this game, because after that they completely capitulated, with BWP scoring in the 85th minute from Davis and Betancourt to make it 3-1, and this was really the dagger in the heart there. And then just to make things worse, Royer scores for Murillo and Jaskowski to make it 4-1 in favor of the Red Bulls. And that, of course, is your final score. I mean, yeah, this was just an ugly performance by the Quakes. And really, the problem in this game, like I said, it's the defense. But what is really the problem, and if I want to be specific of why the defense was really bad in this game, is because we had no answer in terms of stopping those low crosses that the Red Bulls was putting, and that our fullbacks was just god-awful in this game. I mean, Tommy Thompson, Nick Lima, Lopez, all of these guys were having a pretty shocking kind of game, and they just had no answer in terms of preventing those low cross that was coming into the box. And I will also say that in this game, for the first time this season, I think Almeida really got not really the tactics wrong, but got the substitution wrong. He really made some Starhay-like kind of substitution by bringing Lima off for Lopez. And I know, as I said, Lima was one of the three guys that I thought that did not play very well in that fullbacks. In fact, all of our fullbacks was just god-awful in this game. But at least one thing I know about Lima is that he, even if he has a bad game, he still give 150% commitment to try to make things correct. And I just feel like, I feel like maybe you should have just leave Lima on, or maybe at best, I think what Almeida should have just done is put Tommy Thompson for Lopez, because Tommy Thompson, another guy that I talked about how he wasn't having a good game, and he just does not look comfortable in that right back position, which clearly tells me that I think it's time we basically pluck this experiment of putting Tommy Thompson in the right back. I mean, these first 3 games, we have seen that Tommy Thompson has played in that right back position, a position that he has never played before, and it's clear that it does not work whatsoever. So I think we got to plug the switch in terms of that experiment and just put Lima back in there in his natural position. Keep in mind, Lima also played in the left back today, which is kind of explain why he had kind of a poor game, because that's not his natural position. And the other thing that Almeida did get wrong in terms of the substitution is not bringing Houston on sooner. He waited to the 78th minute to bring on Houston in this game, and that is just way too long to basically bring him on in this game. He should have brought him on as soon as we conceded that goal, where we need some injection in terms of our attack. Again, Wando in this game was absolutely non-existent, and I even tweeted out, when I see Wando in the starting 11, I knew we were going to play down to 10 men, because Wando is basically a passenger for us in these last couple of games, and he was once again the case. Like, he barely touched the ball. There wasn't really a lot of mention that Wando actually even got the ball, because nobody really feed him the ball, and then when we did try to feed him the ball, he just gave the ball away because his hold-up play is absolutely dreadful. So, yeah, that, of course, is some of the things that Almeida did get wrong in terms of the substitution. And in terms of the shots in this game, the Red Bulls had 23 shots compared to 8 that the Quakes had, 7 shots on goal compared to 1 that the Quakes had, 7 shots off target compared to 5 that the Quakes had, 9 that was blocked compared to 2 that the Quakes had, and the Quakes actually had 53% possession compared to 47 that the Red Bulls had. So, yeah, the stats kind of really backs up of how one-sided this game was. But again, the first half, the Quakes, they did a really good job. And this is also the other thing I will say again about the Quakes. I don't know why this team tends to play very well for 45 minutes, but then they just kind of switched off. Like last season, we've seen this happen a lot, where they play a good first half, they have the lead heading into halftime, and they just capitulate it in the second half. Like, that is something that Almeida's have to get into this team. And I think one way he can get into this team in terms of trying to get this team to play the full 90 minutes is just show them the tape of what they did in the first half. That first half is what I want this Quakes teams to do, both on the road and at home. And that first half, I think, is what should resemble of what Almeida wants from this team in terms of the man-marking system. So, yeah, I'm hoping that we can once again replicate that first half, but only for the future game try to do that for the full 90 minutes and not just the first 45. But yeah, next up, Orlando. Well, if you're an Orlando City fan, this was a rough game for you. And this game felt very similar to what happened in 2018, which was just, it was god awful in 2018 for Orlando City. They lost this one to Montreal by a final score of 3-1. And in the first half, Okawonka scored in the 14 minutes. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Apologize if I mispronounce it. And then literally 60 seconds later, Piatti scores from Urruti to make it 2-0 to Montreal. And you know, it's one thing to concede a goal early and that it makes fans really angry, the fact that they concede a goal that early in the game to an opposition, especially playing at home. But it just makes it even more infuriating and probably just drive everyone absolutely nuts. The fact that you concede a goal literally 60 seconds after you concede the first one, and it was basically because of them just straight from the kickoff, they just gave the ball away. Like literally Montreal didn't even touch the ball straight from the kickoff, and they basically just made a bad back pass that Urruti of course intercepted, and then he of course gave it to Piatti, and yeah, that's how it basically was made it into 2-0. And you know, when you see that, I knew that the Orlando City is not going to win this, and I knew that this looked very similar to what happened last year, where their back line was just absolutely god awful and just made some very schoolboy kind of type of error. And yeah, at that point I knew it was going to be over, even though we're only like 15 minutes in this game. And then it was really truly over in the second half when Piatti scored his second goal from Novello. And you know, anytime when Piatti is having a field day against your team, don't expect your team to get a win, and you probably are expecting the Impact to get all 3 points in this game, which they did exactly that. Dwyer, of course, scores from Patinia to Mueller to basically get the consolation. But again, Orlando City, when you look at this game, this looks literally like what they were in 2018, where they just cannot defend and didn't look very good on the attacking end. And the stats, of course, also show how Orlando City was very poor at home, and it didn't feel like they was actually at home in this game, because Montreal outshot them 19-9 in terms of the shots, 11 shots on goal compared to 2 that Orlando City has, 3 shots that was off target compared to 5 that Orlando City has, and Montreal at 5 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Orlando City had. Possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Orlando City has. And yeah, I mean, as I said before, Orlando City, this was an absolute terrible kind of showing at home. And for Montreal, it's a good bounce back after that tough loss on the road. And now the Impact, with 2 wins in those 3 road games, they definitely are feeling very confident that, you know, this could definitely be a good season for the Impact, and that they definitely look like they're bound to make the playoffs. And keep in mind, I think this team is not playing their first home game until like April, so you know, they're going to be continue to be on the road, and if they can get more wins on the road, then yeah, watch out for this Impact team. This could be a dark horse team heading into this season, and could be a team that not only would make the playoffs, but maybe even crack the top 4 spot if they can continue to play the way that they're doing right now. Yeah, next up, DC. Well, they absolutely destroyed RSL in this game. And if you're an RSL fan, yeah, prepare to look away, and I grant you permission to skip 3 to 4 minutes into this video, because what you're about to hear is going to be very ugly, and I think this is going to be, this performance by RSL is arguably one of the worst performances I have ever seen by a road team, because not only they got absolutely annihilated by DC 5-0 in this game, but they also had 2 men sent off in this game. And also, Wayne Rooney getting his first ever hat-trick in MLS in this game, and also getting his 2019 goal scoring account started. And it all started in the 34th minute when he scored a penalty after they look at VAR to see whether or not if it was a penalty that RSL conceded. And really, the VAR incident they were looking was when Silva actually stepped on Arriola's foot, and I have no clue how in the world did Silva not get sent off for that. Like, anytime when you step on an opponent's foot, that is an absolute reckless kind of play, and it should be deemed as a red card. I mean, he could have easily broke Arriola's foot there. And just a little bit of a foreshadow, Silva eventually did get sent off in this game. He actually got a yellow card in that instant early on. And of course, like I said, Rooney, of course, scored his first, what would be a hat-trick in this game. And then he scored his second goal from Jara after just an absolute poor giveaway from RSL defense. I mean, RSL defense was just non-existent in this game. Savarino, of course, that then gets sent off after he basically high-booted Acosta there. And, you know, I understand that Savarino was trying to get the ball that was right there in front of Acosta's face, but anytime when you try to lift your feet up so high near the opponent's face, and if you do not get the ball but get the opponent's face, yeah, that is going to be deemed as a red card, because just like the Arriola stomp earlier from Silva, that is a very dangerous play and could have easily not just broke an opponent's foot, but at this instant could have literally caused a concussion from Acosta, and that it would have been a very ugly scenes if that happened. So RSL, of course, down to 10 men, and you know, at that point it was really game over. And really at that point it wasn't just if DC was going to win this game, but how many they're going to get. And then they eventually would get their third goal, and Rooney, of course, complete his hat trick from Mourinho and Acosta. And then things just gets even worse for RSL after Silva, as I mentioned earlier, that should have been got sent off that stomp from Arriola, did get sent off for his second yellow in the 67th minute. And then Lucas Rodriguez scored his first goal from Rooney. So Rooney not only a hat-trick in this game, but he also got an assist in this game too. And then Segura then basically add insult to injury to RSL from Mourinho again. And yeah, there you have it. 5-0 in favor of DC. Shots in this game, 22 shots compared to 4 that RSL had. 7 shots on goal compared to 2 that RSL had. 9 shots off target compared to 2 that RSL had. 6 shots that was blocked compared to none that RSL has. Possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43 that RSL had. And for RSL, this was an embarrassing performance, and I'm pretty sure Mike Pecky is going to get into his team of how embarrassing this resort is. And, you know, for DC, this is a resort that pretty much proves why this team could definitely be a team that not only finished top 3 in the East, but could even compete with Atlanta and the Red Bulls for those top spots. I mean, the only reason why I'm still kind of a little bit iffy of whether or not if DC can actually be the best team in the Eastern Conference is that, you know, we'll see how they will do on the road, and also can they continue to do this at home. And in this game, they kind of get a little bit benefit because they had 2-man advantage for the last 30 minutes, and they were playing against an RSL team that pretty much didn't even show up in this game. But at the end of the day, this is an incredible performance by DC, and for RSL, like I said, they got to move on from this, and it's hard to try to move on after an embarrassing result like this, but pretty sure Mike Pecky will try to find ways to get into his team and trying to hope that this team can bounce back heading into next week. But yeah, finally, we have the Galaxy. They play against Minnesota, and for Minnesota, this is a big missed opportunity. And I know it might sound greedy to say that they could have got 3 wins in a row, considering Minnesota is not a good road team, but knowing what they did in the first 2 games and knowing how good they've been on the road, yeah, I thought this was going to be another win for them, because the Galaxy, they were very short-handed in this game with no Zlatan and no Alessandrini, but unfortunately they weren't able to take advantage of that. And the Galaxy, after what I said about how I don't know where the goals is going to come from this team, since they don't have Zlatan and Alessandrini, 2 guys are probably their arsenal of their attack. it turns out that they still were able to find other guys that can score. And the other guys that probably maybe watched my video thinking that I kind of just written them off, yeah, they clearly proved me wrong in this game. First half, JDS scores from a penalty in the 36th minute to make it 1-0 in favor of the Galaxy. And then Pontius scores from Fletcher and Boateng to make it 2-0 in favor of the Galaxy. But Minnesota did fight back in this game. Gregor scores his first goal from Matera to make it 2-1 in favor of the Galaxy. But the Galaxy put all that hope that Minnesota could come back in this game all gone when Leggett scores from Atuna to make it 3-1. Minnesota did make it interesting again when Angelino Rodriguez scores in the 87th minute to make it 3-2, but that would be the final goal that would be scored in this game, and that is your final score, with the Galaxy walking away of Dignity Sports Park with a 3-2 win over the Loons. And like I said, the Loons, they had a good opportunity to face a kind of short-handed Galaxy team in this game and get another win, but the Galaxy, the supporting cast really stepped up for this team. And in terms of the shots in this game, there was actually a lot of shots by both teams, 20-15 in terms of the shots. 7 shots on goal compared to 4 that Minnesota had. 9 shots off target compared to 10 that Minnesota has. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Minnesota has. 62% possession compared to 38% possession that Minnesota has. And yeah, for the Galaxy, this is certainly an unexpected win. I didn't think that they were going to get enough goals in this game to get a victory and power through Minnesota, but they did in this game. And like I said, with the Loons, this is a bit of a missed opportunity and a bit of a disappointment that they weren't able to capitalize against a short-handed Galaxy team. And now they're going to have to move on again on the road, because they're not going to be playing their first game at Allianz Field until April, and we shall see how they will do for the rest of the road games this season. But yeah, either way, that is pretty much it for the review of the Saturday game. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these games. Tonight I'm going to be doing the Sunday day games review. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I, of course, will see you guys next time.